Okay, I got to build wealth because I'm negative 100,000 net worth. I can't do this. Once I put the money in, I'm like, okay, wait. So I have all this money from my savings account that I'm using in my stock market, and I don't know what I'm invested in. So I should probably do some research. So I started doing the research. And the thing that really stuck out about Tesla that no other company that I was looking at that time was that it had such an insanely smart retail investing community in the Tesla Motors Club forum. You had all these people like Dave Lee and Emma Peppers, like OGs, that have been following the story in depth almost since IPO. And they had these threads that were hundreds of replies deep that were basically research paper upon research paper as to why this company was going to perform well. And I'm like, okay, this is really weird. Why does this company have so many passionate retail investors, like just random people talking about how well the company's going to do? And it wasn't superficial, it was like really in depth analysis. And it was contrary to what most other people were saying. Like, well, that's something. And then Q1 earnings or Q2 earnings in 2013 was their first profitable quarter ever. And then it basically confirmed the story that so many people were saying in these forums. And I was like, okay, how come they saw this and no one else did? That was my gut reaction. And so that's when I just went down the rabbit hole. I'm like, okay, I need to figure out that sauce. Because if I figure that out, then I should be able to figure other things out that fit the same mold of, hey, I'm trying to get ahead of everybody else because that's where the opportunity is to invest in the company, is how can I find the true potential of the company before the market prices it in, essentially. And that's when the obsession started. Every Elon Musk interview, every Elon Musk video, every Tesla video, every single thread on Tesla Motors Club, every single thread on Tesla.com forums, just vacuum everything. Give me it. Just give me all the information because I have to figure out how this thing came along. And then the more information I ingested, the more it became obvious to me that this was a once in a generation company because of a combination of the leader, the market, the approach, the talent, and the TAM.
Farzad Mesbahi is a successful Tesla retail investor, turned Tesla employee, turned Tesla YouTuber. His unique style and innovative approach to content creation has earned him over 50,000 subscribers in just over a year from starting his channel. This is his second appearance on the podcast. In this wide-ranging interview, we discuss the content creation process, Tesla investment thesis, the auto market, Twitter, and much more. The theme of separating signal from noise recurs throughout. Farzad is a humble, wise, and genuine person with a talent for bringing people together. I am fortunate to be able to call him a friend. As always, it was a joy to speak with him. And now, fellow travelers, here is Farzad Mesbahi.
Yeah, it's been great to get to hang out with you today. I just thinking back to the Tesla Bull Stampede, that was an awesome event. I just want to give you props for your role in that. Also, Anwar Beck and Matt Holm. I mean, I think they are absolutely incredible. I don't probably very underappreciated in the Tesla community. The amount of things that they kind of coordinate quietly in the background and can make happen, and then all of the Tesla Owners Club of Austin. So, how did you actually meet Anwar and Matt originally?
Yeah, that's actually thank you for those props. I think I deserve a lot less credit than you think. What's interesting about the whole thing is I actually met Matt and Anwar Beck, and really all these events that I've been involved in is because of another member of the Tesla Owners Club here in Austin. His name's Matthew Tower, and he's sort of been he was the brainchild behind this idea of having the like me as a as a panelist driving a panel at the bar, and then Noah coming in and volunteering his time for the production, like took it to just levels that we didn't even think were possible. So just absolutely insane. I met him through Matthew, through one of my buddies here in Austin, and it's been just really cool. It's been really cool being part of that sort of scene, I guess, and really getting to meet more people in the Tesla community, and kind of with Matt and Anwar Beck, they have a pretty, they've been here for 10 years and they've been building out this club, and they do really cool stuff. Last year's TeslaCon was something that they hosted as well, which was super freaking cool. And yeah, it was just really, really awesome and just fun to meet these guys. And yeah, it's and the Stampede itself was such a surreal experience because we were talking before we went live. It's super fun being around folks with that love, what you love, and then you add some beer and liquor to it, and it goes up like 10 notches, bro. It gets wild. And seeing sort of all the content that has come out of that event with Sandy and Corey and the panelists and all the stuff, that it was just such a treat. And being associated with that event in any small way was super, super cool. But I really think the bar owner and the bar folks deserve so much credit for even allowing us to host. And obviously Matt, Anwar, Beck, and Matthew for not just for coming up with the idea, but allowing this to come together. And then the panelists for agreeing to come on and talk. And it was crazy. I reached out to 6 folks, and all 6 said yes. And I was like, when is the last time you get 100% hit rate on anything? So that was incredible. And yeah, and Noah, I can't say enough about Noah and his production team. 10 people showed up to this thing, out of their pocket, set up multiple cameras, made it look like we were somehow professional and we're just a bunch of bozos talking about Tesla. It was great. It was so cool. And yeah, I was completely honored. And thanks again to Matthew Tower for even coming up with the idea. I think he deserves a lot of credit as well, for sure.
Yeah, huge shout out to Noah's company, Corporate Streams, for all that they did there. And then I'll link their company here in the show notes as well. So if you need a professionally produced live event, check out Noah at Corporate Streams. They are
not only that,
on top of it.
Not only that, I think Tesla for the quarterly calls should hire Noah's company, because if there is one company that doesn't have their quality together for these quarterly calls, is one of the most technologically advanced companies in the world. What are you guys doing?
Like,
we can barely understand anybody.
Cars.
Yeah. Yeah. Par for the course. I feel like, having been there, is like the cars are incredible, but like it's so funny. It's so Tesla.
It's like, that's not really critical to the mission, and so it just doesn't get the love that it deserves. Man, and audio, especially when you have multiple people speaking, audio is a real challenge. And yeah, I know that it didn't go completely smoothly at the Tesla Bulls Stampede, but like, I was watching Noah's audio guy back there on his board, like switching around between all the different sources and EQing people's vocals on the fly, and I was just like, holy crap, this guy's incredible. Yeah. So yeah, very, very well done. And it's always hard, especially when you've got multiple people who have to use the handheld mic and they don't know just to wait for a second.
Yeah,
that's always,
and to put it up to their mouth, to make sure, because the gain's low, because it's real loud around you. Yeah, it's wild. The technical stuff is fun. Nuts. Yeah.
So going back to Cyber Rodeo, actually, another event with some free-flowing alcohol and great stories and a lot of smart people all in one place. Was Matthew Tower also involved in coordinating that panel there between you and Sandy and Jordan? And I think was Dave Lee there?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's Matthew. Yeah, Matthew Tower. Yeah, he was another person that's part of the club that did a lot of that work too. Yeah, and he is like a super fan, dude. He's like, he loves the company, the mission, all that it's doing, but he's very much behind the scenes, But I got to make sure I shout out his name, because he deserves it.
There's a very high chance that I met him. We were talking, and I don't think we exchanged names.
He had his dog.
Okay, he was okay. Yeah. So he's a different one, but then I did see him. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So a lot has happened since I had you on the channel a few months ago. Elon Twitter saga was just then kicking off when we recorded, which was fun. We've kind of seen that play out here over the past few months. We did have the Tesla Investor Day and the Bull Stampede. You passed 50,000 subs this past week. You've got a new channel that you're running with Tom Nash. Are you starting a series with Alexandra as well?
Yeah, that's another new channel as well. Yeah.
So when does that kick off?
Last Friday. We already had our first episode. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
what's the name of the channel? Because I was looking for it and I couldn't find it today.
The noisemakers.
The Noisemakers. All
That's
right.
right. Because
So
we're out there
I'll
making noise.
include that. How did that first interview go?
Fantastic. Yeah, it was one of those things where, her and I have a really good rapport. We just, I learn a lot from her, and I'm just very inspired by her, just her approach and just how professional she is and how knowledgeable she is. And I think and we both know how to talk. We're both talkers, man. Like, can't shut up, and we make a lot of noise apparently. So, uh, and that name itself is such a funny sort of genesis of how that whole thing happened. But yeah, it went really, really well. It was about an hour. We could have gone for 3, but for the sake of our audience, we went 1. So that I didn't know, like, shut up. So that was really nice. And then I don't know how often we'll do it. We might do it weekly. We might do it every 2 weeks. But yeah, it was great. And the one with Tom has been going fantastic too. I think we're almost at 1,000 subs. But the the numbers, like the audience size, it's not that important to me, to be completely honest. It's more about talking with people that I find very interesting, that I get along with really well, that, both of us get together and we talk about stuff. Because as I've been doing this YouTube thing, the more I'm finding out is that, man, freaking A, I just love to freaking talk. I can't help it. And I really enjoy it. And my whole mantra has been, if you enjoy doing something, just lean really hard into it and see where it takes you. And I'm trying my best to balance and my bandwidth to make it happen. And it's a challenge because I do want to do it, and I'm gonna figure out how to do it, but it's forcing me to really become a lot more disciplined with my time. And so today, for example, I sucked really bad when it came to that. You and I were talking. My stomach's been a little weird, but it's not enough for me to like cancel my day. It's just been off. But from wake up until about 30 minutes before you and I went live, I would say I was not very efficient with my time because I was scatterbrained. I was going freaking everywhere. And I was on Twitter. Oh, let me look up something on Twitter that I need for one of the videos I'm making. And then, like, half an hour later, I realized that I've just been scrolling and going through all the drama on stuff that's going on. And it was like entertaining myself. And I'm like, what are you doing? So it's like stuff like that is still something that I'm trying to shake off. And I think a lot of people suffer from that. It's just so easy to be ADD in this world. And
100%.
yeah, and I'm my own boss. I don't have, well, my wife is really, producer wife. Let's get it straight here. Producer wife is the boss, okay? But in all seriousness, it's just very difficult. Um, it's been very difficult for me to really be disciplined with my time, as I'm really trying to scale out what I want to do with this YouTube thing and Twitter thing, Substack now, these other 2 podcasts, trying to really expand. I'm trying to take this thing to the maximum, whatever that means. And I'm learning very quickly that unless I figure that time thing out, I'm either going to burn myself out completely and utterly, or I'm going to be a scatterbrained mess that's not going to be bringing value, and I'm just going to be cranking out content for the sake of cranking out content. And that's not what I want to do. I want to be as valuable as possible, as often as possible. But I can only do that if I'm good with my time. So we'll see. I'm learning. If you have any
Uh,
advice, let me know.
well, figuring it out, definitely. You probably have it figured out at a higher level than I do. I curious, that raises a question. I see that you engage in Twitter very actively, but it seems like a lot of the conversations that you have on Twitter then roll over into the content that you produce on YouTube. So what is the engine that your content derives from? Is
Mm.
it Twitter? Is it conversations that you have with people in person? Is it conversations you have with people on YouTube? Is it kind of a mixture of all of the above? How do you crystallize the thoughts and the messages that you want to put forward, and kind of package those up?
It's all of the above. It's definitely Twitter is a I use it, from the very beginning, since I started using Twitter very heavily, like, let's say about a year ago. My whole concept was, I'm gonna make Twitter into my public notepad. So if there was an idea, a thought, something that I wanted to write down in my notepad, I wouldn't write it on my notepad. I would write it on Twitter. And what what people realize like, holy, why are you saying all these things? You know, like why is all this stuff coming out? And I'm like, yeah, it's just free flow. It just kind of whatever comes to mind. I'm trying to put it on Twitter. And what's very interesting about that concept for me is that it the likes, the dislikes, the replies, the lack of replies, how people sort of like, you know, engage with that tweet is sort of like a feedback mechanism that kind of tells me if an idea is worth exploring or if it's an idea that's just whatever, you know? And that's what I find Twitter to be that's why I find it to be so interesting because I can use it especially as my platform grows. Um it's just a way for me to understand where my ideas are in relation to others and not just to try and to like have a measuring contest. It's because I'm genuinely curious to see how certain ideas are being perceived by the public or at least the people that follow me. And depending how Twitter's algorithm evolves over time, more and more people will see those thoughts and ideas and so on and so forth. So I use that to just explore different topics. And on Twitter, I try to be wide ranging. I'm not, you know, I do quite a bit of Tesla content on Twitter, but I also wade into politics. I wade into philosophy. I wade into other things, right, that I'm naturally interested in. And so it's a discovery process for me. Also, it's a phenomenal source for news. Twitter is a very good source for news. It's the easiest, most straightforward, even though the search function is horrific. It's the easiest way to be up to date on what's going on. So I use it for that. I use it to, you know, sort of keep up with certain folks that I follow that I'm very interested in and what they talk about. But then the YouTube stuff, talking to people in person, that also that you know helps me think through ideas. And then typically what happens is all these things coalesce and then I sit down in front of a computer like this morning what I should have been doing is taking my you know the tweets that I put together yesterday and today kind of read through them and see what the responses were what are the people what are people thinking about what are people questioning what are the ones that are resonating which ones are the ones that aren't resonating. I try to use that as a baseline to do a little bit more research on the things that are being sort of, you know, that are resonating or not resonating. And then I use the knowledge base I've built with my channel with people that I've talked to, with all the research I've done on my own to develop a concept that I want to talk about on any given day if I'm not interviewing somebody. And then I use that data to put out content, you know, and I'll, you know, get down in front of my computer. I'll pull up my Google Sheets thing, which is the format that I've been using now. And I sort of slide it out with sort of the flow. And then I just build my thesis out. I get in front of a camera, I hit record. I try to do it in one take, which lately has been difficult because it's just hard. And then I stop record. I go into Premiere Pro. I edit out the parts that are garbage, and then I put it up, and hopefully the whole thing isn't garbage. And that's it. That's my process from beginning to end, really.
So how, like, the one thing that seems like it would be a challenge in that process is holding on to ideas over time. You know, if you're using Twitter as a notepad, it's very ephemeral, and it, like, whatever you tweeted 2 weeks ago, it's hard to go back and find that and to like keep things highlighted. So is that something that you struggle with, or do you have a system that actually helps you to hold on to those critical threads over time? Or do you just not use Twitter for that at all? How does that work?
That's a good question. The Twitter for me is usually like a 24-hour thing. Is like if I'm testing out a thesis, it's much easier for me to scroll through my profile for the last 24 hours than it is to go back 3 weeks or even 5 days. It's a disaster. You know, I think the bookmarking feature is going to make it easier for us to do that, but I'm not going to remember to bookmark my own tweets. And who's the weirdo that bookmarks their own tweets? You know, I don't want to be that guy. So forget it. So Elon, if you're watching this, bro, like it would be awesome if you can sort of have you and the team figure out a way to try and make your tweets into more of a notepad type format that's going to allow us to sort of tuck away things, you know, that we want to come back to. I think it would be super, super cool. But because of its limitations, I only use it for a 24-hour kind of thing. And then the other part of it, though, is that I don't know. I just if something is profound enough that or something that is very important to me, I seem to be pretty good at retaining that information, and and it just becomes part of me. in some way, like just becomes part of my thought process. And so when I'm thinking about a concept or trying to create content around a concept, I don't have to go seek out that piece of information. It just comes up. And I don't know how that is. I think it's just because I'm so passionate about that thing. That it's almost like I have like an epiphany around an idea, and then my brain just says, "Okay, this needs to be stored into quick access memory that is never deleted and it's available at all times." And that's something that I've been able to do. I don't know, in really all my things around my career. So I'm leveraging it for YouTube in a sense. It's just kind of picking stuff out of my brain that makes sense to me. Now, again, sometimes I do have to go through the last 24 hours to like what was I saying again? It's like, oh, okay, that's right. But if it's something from a while ago, what I tell myself is, if it was that important, you would remember. If it was that important, you would remember. And that sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't. But um, over time, that's how I've sort of used Twitter. It's just a very short term, like last 24 hours.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you are very good at in conversation too, is like you have those things that are in that random access memory bank that help you to crystallize like a takeaway from a conversation or regurgitate something, rephrase a point that someone's making and help people to come to that like common understanding of what the most critical takeaways from a piece of content are. And that's probably one of the things that I appreciate the most in the conversations that you have. And I think it's one of the reasons that a lot of viewers come back is because they can
Thanks,
watch
man.
the same piece of content. Like, oh yeah, that was really important. And I didn't pull on that thread or recognize it in the moment. And so that helps to tune people's, I guess you could call it their picker, like the um, signal detector.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, dude.
that's actually one of the topics that I'd love to dig in with you on a little bit. And we'll go down a tangent that's fun and personal,
Great.
and then come back to this. But so, how did you know that Cindy was the one, and when?
Oh, bro. Pretty quickly. It was, man, it was maybe 4 months in, 5 months in. My thing was, when I met her, she was just so good. Everything, everything was ticked off. I'm like, I don't know how somebody this hot is talking to me in the first place. A. Second, why are you so nice? Three, why are you so kind and polite and warm and you love video games and you're better than me at Call of Duty? And like, it's just everything was insane. Everything that I would ever want from a woman, she had it in spades and then some. Because in my head, I had this, sort of construct that's like, well, I'm going to have to compromise on something. There's no perfect woman. Well, okay, maybe there is. And then my whole thing was like, okay, this is like insane. Like there's something's wrong here. I don't know. She might be like an undercover spy. She's trying to like freaking have me, I don't know, somehow take my citizenship away. And who knows? I have no idea. I'm just trying to make up the dumbest freaking thing in my head as to how is this even real? And then I think one of the key things was that we really started sharing very personal things about each other's lives, and then I sort of started to learn more about her, like her real, like just like her past and everything. And it became quite obvious that she's somebody that is just so naturally just such a good person and so honest and just a beautiful human being. At which point I'm like, I am not fucking this one up. 0% chance. I was like, okay, we're locking this shit down. But that was 4 months in. And I'm like, I'm not gonna propose in month. I'm just not gonna do it. I can't do it. Because that would ruin the whole thing, you know? So in my head, I'm like, okay, let's wait another 8 to 12 months, see where it goes, you know? And then the longer we work together, the more that thing, because I'm like, at some point, something's got to come up. Something's got to come up that's going to be like that red flag. And it's been almost 10 years since we met for the first time, and there's still no red flags. So I'm like, okay. looks like I made the right choice. It was quite obvious to me. It's like, when people say like, when you know, like that's what it was with me and my wife, is when I knew, and I kept my fingers crossed that she felt the same way about me. And her dumbass said yes, so it's her fault, not mine.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm like, it's not my fault that you
Yeah,
thought that you wanted to be with me. Like,
exactly.
you seem like you were interested, and so I locked that down
Yeah, exactly.
immediately.
Yeah.
So how long was it in between when you first met and when you got engaged?
Let's see. So
So
we
you knew it
met.
4 months. Yeah.
Yeah, so we met in September of 2014. No, October of 2014, and then we were married through the courts by, I think, I want to, yeah, September of 2016. So it was about 2 years ish, a year and 8 months, whatever that math is. I'm too lazy to do math right now. It's about 2 years. Um, and then we had our wedding in 2018. And I always tell people, get married but don't have a wedding, because like the whole, through the courts and just putting it on paper and making it official was great, and then the wedding was a just absolute shit show and so expensive. It's like, why are people having weddings? This is insane. It's like a party for the family. Like, you do it for the family, so that people can be like happy. Oh my God, what a beautiful couple. And I'm over here like, I just spent 50,000 for the florist to be late by 3 hours, and the makeup artist being late by 2 hours, and freaking disaster. It's gonna rain, and not going to rain, it's going to rain, not going to rain, and the photographer can't take pictures because it's nighttime now because everything's pushed back by 2 hours. That's when I'm like, okay, what happened? It's like, but we do have memories. We have positive memories. So yeah, but it was about 2 years. Yeah.
That was one of the benefits for Brittany and I. We got married so young that people didn't have high expectations of the quality of the party we were going to throw them. So yeah,
Smart.
I think we got away, really, really cheap. But we were 22 at the time. So
how long have you guys been married for?
Going on 14 years in August.
Damn, dude.
So yeah, we got married in August of 2009, in between our junior and senior year of college.
Wow. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Dude, I'm lucky.
Damn.
100%.
Hell, and I was going to say, like, that's crazy because you look like you're in your like late 20s, early 30s.
We're the same age, yeah. 36.
That's insane. So. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, bro. You look great.
Yeah.
It's that foundation.
I'm not sure what it is, but definitely got fortunate there.
Yeah.
I think, growing up, my parents, like watching them and seeing what it takes to get through hard things. That was one of the things for me that I recognized in Brittany early on, was that she was a person that was able to contend with real life and wasn't just in it for the good times and the easy times. Yeah. And we've been through a lot together now, and so always great to have someone that you can really lean on, and she's there for me 100%, and I'm there for her 100%. So
that's awesome, dude. That's fantastic. So happy to hear it. I mean, it shows. I mean, you're one of the happiest people I've met. You're always like, you got a smile on your face. You're always like, I don't know, you're just always vibing. You're always good vibes. It's great, man. And you have such a kind heart too. Like, it's I don't think it's, it's you are just an awesome person. You're an awesome person.
Thank you.
Yeah. So she's lucky, bro. Maybe she should be counting her chickens. All right.
Maybe. I think it's probably the other way around still, but I put her through a lot.
Bros before. I'm kidding. That's awesome.
Before we get derailed too far into that conversation, so keeping with the theme of like signal detection, walk me through, how did you first get exposed to Tesla, and why did it draw you in? If you can zero in on, there's 1,000 companies, 1,000 stories, especially at that point in time. There wasn't the proof in the pudding that we have now that Elon Musk was going to be able to execute in the way that he has in a field outside of software. And so I know that you originally invested in 2012 or in 2013,
December 2012.
December 2012.
Yeah, basically.
And
Yeah.
so how much research did you put in before that, before you made an investment? And what was the original seed that kind of sucked you down the rabbit hole?
Yeah. So the very first time I invested in Tesla was because um, I was getting interested in the stock market. And there were a couple articles that were saying, check out this new company that nobody has heard about that's going to change the future of automotive. And I saw the picture of the car. I was like, that looks sick. And then I'm like, ooh, it's only like 28 bucks or 30 bucks. I'm going to buy one or 10 or I think I had my initial Tesla investment was like $1,000.
So is this before you even understood like market caps or any, like,
Oh
you just
yeah.
the price of the individual
Yeah.
share
30
was?
bucks. Cheap. Let's go. It's super just stupid. And then I'm like, okay, so I have this portfolio, and given at this time, I had stock in Apple, Nvidia, Tesla, a couple 3D printing companies, and something else. I forget what the other one was, but it was just and it was like it wasn't that much money. It was my entire life savings. I think it was like my entire portfolio was like somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000, and that's all I had to my name back in 2012 because I had graduated with
Yeah. I
in
mean, you're like
2009.
25, right? So
Yeah, 25 ish. However old I was by then, and I was 87, so 25. Um, the um, I had $10,000 to my name, basically no savings. All my savings were in the stock market. I had graduated from college in the Great Recession, and I finally had a job that was paying okay at that time. And I'm like, okay, I got to build wealth because I'm negative 100,000 net worth. I can't do this. I got to figure out how to do it. And then once I put the money in, I'm like, okay, wait. So I have all this money in my savings from my savings account that I'm using in my stock market, and I don't know what I'm invested in. So I should probably do some research. So I started doing the research. And the thing that really stuck out about Tesla that no other company that I was looking at that time was that it had such an insanely smart retail investing community in the Tesla Motors Club forum. And the Tesla forums at that time, they also had Tesla forums where you had all these people like Dave Lee and Emma Peppers and others, like OGs. I think James Stevenson was one of the OGs as well, if I remember correctly, that have been following the story in depth almost since IPO. And they had these threads that were hundreds of replies deep that were basically research paper upon research paper as to why this company was going to perform well. And I'm like, okay, this is really weird. Why does this company have so many passionate retail investors, like just random people talking about how well the company's going to do? And it wasn't superficial. It was like really in-depth analysis. And it was contrary to what most other people were saying. Like, well, that's something. And then what was it? I think Q1 earnings or Q2 earnings in 2023, Q1 earnings in 2023, I believe it, or 2013, excuse me, was their first profitable quarter ever. And then it basically confirmed the story that so many people were saying in these forums. And I was like, okay, what's going on? How come they saw this and no one else did? That was my gut reaction. How come they saw this and nobody else did? What happened? And so that's when I just went down the rabbit hole. I'm like, okay, I need to figure out that sauce. Because if I figure that out, then I should be able to figure other things out that fit the same mold of, hey, I'm trying to get ahead of everybody else because that's where the opportunity is to invest in the company, is how can I find the true potential of the company before the market prices it in, essentially. And that's when the obsession started. Every Elon Musk interview, every Elon Musk video, every Tesla video, every single thread on Tesla Motors Club, every single thread on Tesla.com forums, just vacuum everything. Give me it. Just give me all the information because I have to figure out how this thing came along. And then the more information I ingested, the more it became obvious to me that this was a once in a generation company because of a combination of the leader, the market, the approach, the talent, and the TAM. And so for me, it was like, okay, so that seems like it's unbelievable. Just why wouldn't you invest in it, right? And at that time too, I'm still young, I'm still 36, but back then I was younger. And so in my head, I'm like if there is any risk whatsoever with the story, I would be a moron if I don't at least maximize my chances of really riding this train, because I will have time to recoup if I lose. I'm 25, 26, 27, however old I was. I have time to recoup if I lose. And then the more time went on, the stronger the Tesla story got. They went from just the Model S becoming profitable to the Model S and the Model X, then the Model 3 being launched, autopilot, the Model Y, energy, solar, the bot, Gen 3, FSD. You go on and on with the story, and I'm like, okay, so what I thought the company was going to do, they are doing. They are on an unstoppable path of just reinventing what it means to be a company in the 21st century. And yeah, and so it's just I just kind of took it farther than what your question was, because you got me going. Sorry, but that's what was that was the initial thing that really got me there, was that.
Well, and so you take all of that information, you ingest it all, and you actually go out on a limb and make your own set of predictions back in 2013, was it? On
Yep.
the Tesla Motor Club forum?
2014, something like that. It was on we were talking about that Reddit thread, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you are able to, ingest all that information, synthesize it, make your own predictions, and then for the most part, people call you crazy. But lo and behold, most of those predictions end up coming true. So how does that then color how you are seeing the story today? We're in the middle of a lot of similar FUD type discussions that we've been in the past, although, hey, at least there's a lot of reasonable pushback now as well, besides just craziness, that people have a hard time wrapping their heads around. How are we going to get to 20 million cars? Demand does not equal production. FSD is never gonna be anything significant. Yeah. The bot is not meaningful. Dojo doesn't matter. It's just a car company. It should be valued the same as Toyota. All these types of arguments from people who are smart people and have their own set of lenses that they view the world through, that have been very effective at predicting other things in the past. So when you're having discussions with these types of people, how are you walking the line between, okay, staying humble, like, did I just get lucky in the information that I used to make sense of the world and the accuracy of my prediction before, and the information that I'm getting from these people is valuable and maybe I need to take it into account more, but it doesn't seem to square with what I see. And so, how do you stay as neutral and open to new data as possible, without just getting carried away by prior success in making those types of long-term bold calls?
That's a great question, and I don't know if I have the right answer, because I think I'm naturally biased. But what I try to do is that I try to test my thesis every single day. I go out and I collect data. I look at what competition is doing. I don't care about the stock in these scenarios, right? I could care less about what the stock price will do. My whole thing is like, will Tesla get to 20 million? Will they complete FSD? Will they ramp up energy? Will they get solar figured out? Will they get bot finished? These are the kinds of questions I'm trying to answer. And so every single day I try to gather data that helps you understand that dynamic. And I feel like the longer the days go, the more data we have, that the arguments that Tesla won't be able to reach those goals become weaker and weaker. That's my opinion based on the data that I'm gathering, right? And so if we take the latest information that we have right now, Tesla just did a price decrease in January of 2023. Their demand is at an all-time high. They're ramping Berlin and Austin. Meanwhile, the rest of the auto market, at the very least in the United States, is shrinking, which means that Tesla is taking significantly higher market share. And then if you look at their true direct competition in, say, a BYD, ever since the price decrease happened with Tesla in China, the BYD sales have gone down by 30-40%, while Tesla is going to have a record Q1. Okay. So there's another one. And then you look at companies like Ford, who have just announced their Ford Explorer today, that is an SUV just for the European market that is meant to replace their cheapest cars in Europe. They're going to sell a more expensive vehicle that is based on the Volkswagen ID platform that doesn't have a front trunk in 2023 as an SUV. So I look at that and I'm like, okay, I don't have to see anything else, in my opinion, that would tell me that we're not on the path to that. Okay. So, what are the things that would need to happen, in my opinion? The things that would need to happen is that Tesla sales go down year over year while they are increasing production and lowering prices. If that were to happen, then the other thesis becomes more correct. It means that, hey, there's actually competition coming, or there's not enough people here to buy those cars. But the opposite has been happening. There's more and more momentum. And I'm looking around and seeing, okay, are there companies in legacy auto that are going to be able to reach mass market at an affordable price profitably in the next 2 to 3 years? I don't see it. You can say, okay, well, the Chevy Bolt is this very affordable, cheap car from GM. Fantastic. Is it profitable? Nope. How do you know that? GM themselves said it. But what did they say? By 2025, we hope to make money on EVs by selling 1 million EVs per year. So that means that the Bolt is not making any money, right? It's just very, very simple. So then you look at the other companies as well. So Ford very openly says, like, hey, we're not making money on EVs. Jim Farley, props to him and the company being very, 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 very open. Volkswagen, the same verbiage we heard from Diess before he was thrown out for the new CEO. That's sort of trying to refocus the company into something else. So I try to continually look at the data sets. And earlier this year, I was concerned about China, because the China numbers were soft. We're coming in quite soft in relation to other quarters. But then what ended up happening as the quarter went along is that, hey, it was just the usual thing where Tesla exports and then end of the quarter, they do domestic sales. And lo and behold, again, it's record sales for Tesla, while its direct competitors are down dramatically. So, I try my best to be as unbiased as possible and test my thesis, both within, with Tesla bulls and whatever information I can find from Tesla bears that I think is a valid criticism. Because I think one of the weaknesses is that I think most Tesla bears are coming at it wrong. They're continually trying to compare it to a legacy automaker. And I just don't feel like that is a valid way of looking at it. So perhaps I'm dismissive of it too quickly, and I find that it's just not the right way. Maybe that's just me being egotistical and arrogant. That might be it too. I don't know.
Well,
it's just yeah.
When I have those conversations, the thing that, like, the alarm bell that continually sounds is just thinking about Elon saying, think from first principles, reason from first principles, not by analogy. And like every single argument that you hear, it is an argument from analogy.
Right.
It's like, okay, I don't see, like, they can't sell 20 million units. Like, are you sure about that? I think,
Why not?
if the product is compelling enough, like, has Elon proven that he knows how to make compelling products?
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
so. And so if he can make them super compelling, like he talks about, the value is infinite. Now all I have to do is just lower the price point to where enough people can afford it. And we're there.
I'll throw you a bigger one that I just learned in the last few days. So I had a podcast with Ray and Zach Shefska from Car Edge.
I wanted to talk to you about
Yeah.
this.
And these guys are seasoned veterans of the auto dealership industry in the United States. And so let me tell you what Elon said at Investor Day. What did he say about demand? He said Teslas are there's no desirability gap. There is a price gap. It's not cheap enough for people to want it. Like, for people to buy it, rather. They want it. They just can't buy it. What did Ray say? A guy has been in the dealership network for decades and really understands the car buyer. He said most Americans, at least let's use America as a proxy. Most Americans are payment shoppers, which means that they are fully concerned on getting the the cheapest price possible for a car, and they will haggle with the dealer to figure out how much car they can get for that price. And so, if Tesla can continue the trend of having um, a lot of people would argue, and I think it's very hard to say against this. It's very hard to dismiss this. Is that Tesla? I think has the most compelling vehicle on the road today, especially bang for your buck from a feature set perspective. And otherwise, it wouldn't be able to sell 1.6 million units run rate with zero advertising, okay, without an affordable car. It would not be able to do that unless it had a very desirable car. Once you go down market and you actually start making this car available for people for say $250 a month lease, $300 a month lease, because of the EV tax credit and the fact that you have a $25,000 car that, by the way, probably won't even depreciate because of autonomy and the fact that it's transitioning to electric vehicles versus gas, which is going to put a lot more demand on that type of vehicle. Like, okay, who wouldn't buy that car? And that's sort of kind of where I land. And I keep getting these confirmation points from people in the industry, Ray, the biggest one, that says, "Hey, just people mostly care about price." I'm like, okay, so
Well,
yeah,
and there's two components to that. There's the entry price is a big piece of what that monthly payment ends up being. But also, you talked about lease term or the loan term also being a big component of that. And I think we've heard Zach talk about their interest in getting involved in captive financing. I think they're getting to the point where their cash flows are going to be incredible. So this part is just speculation for me. I don't know what it's like to get lenders in non-developed nations to be able to offer high quality loans. So this is not just a US market, European market thing. If Tesla takes over captive financing for their entire vehicle lineup, it offers high quality financing in all markets that it's selling into, and is willing to offer loans that are in the 7 to 10 year range to bring down that payment buyer monthly payment to a much more reasonable level, even without dropping the initial purchase price down. And so they have some pretty significant levers. I mean, that was the thing that was going through my mind watching your interview with Ray and his son, and then watching the video that you put out yesterday, was that, it's not just the purchase price. Like, they
it's the
can
monthly
reduce
payment.
that monthly payment, which is, I mean, that's what people are thinking about, is the monthly payment. Now, a 10-year auto loan is not something that really is a
Nobody should
good
do
idea for most
it.
people, but people want it. And so, I think it would be wise for Tesla not to get crazy with that, but it's definitely an option. And if you've got a vehicle that actually has, if you are in Tesla shoes and you believe that your car is reliable, you have the data to back that up based on all of your telematics and your service records and all that, and you're insuring the vehicle, so you're on the hook if they're not. If you have the data, you believe your cars are not going to be depreciating assets, then a 10-year loan becomes a little bit more feasible, especially if you have the ability to improve the car with software updates, OTA, that, you could release software to that car 5 years from now that actually increases its market value and prevents you from taking a bath on still owning the loan on that vehicle.
Hans, wouldn't it be great if Elon Musk somehow would have bought a social media company that is hitting everybody on planet Earth, that he's thinking about turning into the greatest financial company on planet Earth? Wouldn't that be
Man,
a
that would
great
have
thing
been
to
brilliant.
leverage? My God, what a brilliant thing to leverage with car payments, eh?
Hold that thought for just a second.
Hey. Oh, you're muted, bro. Oh, oh, that's why he's telling me to
Yeah,
hold that
this
thought.
is us talking a couple months ago. So
All right, dude. And this Twitter thing is going to be insane. Like people are going to see it
yeah.
firsthand. This is just the beginning. It's going to be freaking wild. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I am so excited to see it. I really am.
Yeah, I think, I was making this comment on Twitter, I think it was yesterday, that we're gonna see some very, very interesting takes in the not too distant future, where people are basically just going back and digging up tweets from this whole thing and telling the story of, wow, like Harvard Business School case study. This is how you make a transformation. They
Yep.
shipped 30 times more project or product updates to Twitter in a year than in the entire previous history of
2
the
months, bro.
company. And yeah, like it's going to be insane. And I
Yeah.
think it will.
What do you think about that? Good stuff. Well done.
So it has been crazy. How do you feel like that is going? Both in it's been messy, and that is one of the things that we talked about earlier on in that conversation, just how chaotic the actual process of innovating is, and it's not a rainbow road. How do you think that that transition at Twitter is going? And then how does it weave together not only with the vision for the original vision for X.com, but how does Elon use that as an instrument also to make all of his other endeavors more successful?
It's going exactly how I expected it to. I think the messy. I had a lot of tweets around this. Is like people will really get to see what it's like behind the curtain to be truly innovative, and I think we saw the good sides and the bad sides because it's not a pretty road, and yeah, it's very clear that it's not, but it's going exactly according to plan. I think the most impressive thing from the Twitter takeover is that Elon was able to reduce the workforce by well over 60%. He was able to reduce the servers needed to run the whole company from 3 servers to 2, so reducing by 33%. And he's getting backlash from every media publication imaginable on it. And as of a few weeks ago, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, we've learned that Twitter will potentially be rather cash flow positive by the second quarter of this year in about 3 months. If that is not an impressive, call it turnaround or whatever you want to call it, but an impressive business feat, I think. I think if somebody doesn't think that is impressive, I believe they are way too negatively biased towards Elon Musk, and I think it speaks to his ability to just make businesses absolutely kick ass. That's what he's good at. He's just very good at it. And I think being able to do that without, let's say, the finance aspect of the app or whatever other aspects of the app that he's planning, I think prove out, in my opinion, that Twitter long term is going to be a ridiculously profitable endeavor for him. And there are opportunities because it is software to have it embed into not just this news thing that we'll use it for, but for it to, long term, I think it's like some sort of human OS or something along those lines, where it's going to help us do or help us achieve a lot of the things that we want to do as people, be it communication or trade services or trade money or trade goods, trade information, entertainment, gaming, ride hailing, financial services. As long as it's on an app and it's software, why wouldn't Twitter do it or whatever this X.com thing is going to be long term, right? And I think Elon Musk has openly talked about how he wants it to be like a WeChat but on steroids kind of thing. So I feel like if Elon says he's going to do something, he does it, and it's oftentimes late. And in the case of full self driving, a solar roof, really late, but it gets worked on. And some of the most outlandish predictions from him have become true, especially around executing the core mission of a company. So if I use Tesla as an example, is the core mission of the company was to get to a mass market vehicle maker that's profitable at 500,000 units per year by 2020. And they called this in 2014 and they did it. And then with SpaceX, it was reusable rockets. And my God, they're on what, like a rocket 200 that's being like this 200th rocket that's being reused. When is the last time SpaceX, knock on wood, has had a failure? I can't
Yeah, it's
recall.
been a long time now.
Yeah. So, knock on wood, hopefully none. So yeah. So if I don't know what else to say.
So do you think that Twitter is going to play a role in the financing future of Teslas, or is that just the experience from the one carries over to the other? I mean, I don't anticipate seeing any intermingling of the balance sheet and assets between Twitter and Tesla
Yeah.
for at least a good long time.
I don't know. I that's a really good question. But the way I think about it is if Twitter does become, let's say Elon Musk calls it the greatest financial institution in the world. He wants it to be like the biggest financial institution in the world. That means that they have a really very, very, very big balance sheet. So it sounds like to me, right?
Yeah.
They have hundreds of billions of dollars of cash that the hopefully doesn't fail during a bank run like we're experiencing right now.
He can't run it any worse. That's for
Like,
sure.
we've learned that. That's for damn sure. Okay, that's for damn sure. How come those people are not getting? I mean, I guess they are being dragged through the mud in some circles, not in a lot of them, but in
Yeah.
some.
Hey, the fact that you're not hearing everybody in the legacy media jumping up and down about it tells you pretty much all you need to know.
Exactly. You got it. You nailed it. Couldn't have said it better myself, honestly. Um, yeah, I think it might be, knowledge transfer from Twitter to Tesla for Tesla to be able to offer those loans. It could be partnering with, I don't know, Twitter's financial arm in 2 to 3 years that has been created, that I don't know would be able to offer, purchase your Tesla online, hook up your Twitter account, and then let's set up your monthly payments through Twitter. And then here are your terms. And all you got to do is fill up your Twitter account. Every so often you can auto withdraw from Wells Fargo or whatever, or just make that your primary bank. And then they somehow talk to each other nicely. And you make it automated. And maybe your supercharger credits get withdrawn from Twitter's bank account, whatever this thing is, right? But I'm not knowledgeable enough about the regulations, what needs to happen. So I will defer to somebody way smarter than me to answer those questions. But to me, it's like, if you're going to make it into a financial institution, why wouldn't you also offer car loans?
Yeah. Well, and at the very least, I mean, we definitely see that it's an incredible PR and marketing tool for Elon, as it's always been. But he's able to interact with it freely and not have to worry now that he's ever going to be kicked off the platform that he owns.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though he'll subject himself to being community noted, he doesn't have to be worried about getting booted.
And let's be honest, he sometimes doesn't help himself.
Which is hilarious. I love when he gets community noted. I think it's pretty awesome.
Great. It's entertaining.
100%. And it does have, so how do you feel like the transition is going for Twitter to be the hivemind of the internet that Elon has talked about this recently, and I know this is something that we touched on before. The smartest people and the people with the most influence are on Twitter, and the engagements and interactions that they're having on Twitter are definitely shaping their worldview and their policy view. I mean, we've heard a number of different stories and even seen up close some other ones where work that has been done by people in the community, Jordan, by you, have actually had impacts at the highest levels of government in shaping the IRA tax policy and other things
Allegedly.
as well. Allegedly.
Yeah.
According to Jordan. So Yeah.
I think, um, I think it's going well. I mean, the way I think about it is, I do think Elon needs to make sure that if he's going to be the referee, he needs to make sure that he is as impartial as unbiased as humanly possible when he's in the role of referee. Um, so up until the point that he finds that CEO leader that's going to really take the reins, let's call it, that's going to be playing this new referee. I think it's important to be as impartial as humanly possible to really be the leader that says, "Hey, everybody's welcome." Because he said, I want to be maximally welcome to everybody.
Mhm. Do you think that
So,
most people view him as the referee right now?
oh
What is
yeah, of
your
course.
sense of the general opinion
Yeah,
there?
yeah, yeah. Well, it's all Elon owns Twitter now. It's Elon's Twitter. It's Elon's Twitter. I think just Elon as an individual has such a magnetic force around him to just be associated with the brand that he's running at any given time that he's automatically going to be viewed as the person. Even Tesla, which I think is changing slowly as of late, is becoming, was Elon Musk solely. But I think over time, as Elon has brought in other leaders in the business, he's tried to become I don't know, more outwardly, maybe less directly associated with the brand by promoting it directly or whatever. They're still like every time Tesla comes up, it's always Elon Musk, Elon Musk, Elon Musk. So I think he's just going to be viewed that way regardless until I don't know, until maybe he just doesn't like even SpaceX, bro. Like most people don't know who SpaceX's president, the COO, Gwen Shotwell, who actually runs the show. Nobody knows her, and she's a freaking badass, dude. But it's Elon Musk figured out how to recover the rocket. It's like, okay, Elon Musk was part of the team that figured out how to recover the rocket. Okay, it's a very different distinction, but I think in the public, I think it's not. I don't know. That's sort of the media landscape that we live in today, and I think it's going to be tough to break away from that just by the sheer impact he's had on society. So it's what happens when you're one of those individuals that just stands out, like your Steve Jobs type, Bill Gates back in the day. Some may argue still to this point. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's use this as an opportunity to transition over to so you've got all the things that we talked about earlier that you're involved in. You have hopes for building whatever the new version of a media entity is in 2023, 4, 5. What role, what does that look like? And then we'll stick with Twitter for just a second in that, but then we'll get off of Twitter. What role do you think Twitter is going to play in creating whatever that is as Elon adds options for you to monetize content on Twitter and gives you a platform where your voice doesn't have to be censored in the same way that all the other media distribution internet platforms currently do? That has an audience, obviously Rumble, some of these other platforms, they're branding themselves as a free speech platform, but they do not have the distribution and the network effects that actually reaches a broad swath of the population that is diverse and has people who are from both sides of the aisle in the United States, and then internationally also has mind share. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think how you described it is exactly why Twitter is so powerful. It's because it's a one would hope as I think it has a good track record of it as of late, but that it's not partial to one party, one spectrum of a political thought process. So it allows a maximally available free speech within the limit of the law, right? And so if that's the case, then theoretically it's a playground of any idea. And the network effect is that the people can then decide which ideas they most resonate with and which ones they don't. And it becomes a true battlefield of ideas and thoughts and articles and videos and stuff, right? Where people can share between each other. And I think that part of it is so powerful that Twitter has. It's like, as of late, Elon has been, as an example, liking my tweets, replying to my tweets, and that has a amplifying effect that is very unique to Twitter. Or if somebody that has a lot of people that follow them, when they share something, those people get exposed to it. So I think that mechanism is very unique to Twitter. Like, you can't retweet things on Instagram, I don't think. You go on you like stuff, you share stuff. But I don't think you can actually like retweet something, That retweet button is very powerful. It's really powerful. And that's very unique to Twitter. So within that landscape, it does seem like it's a very unique way of getting ideas to flow from one person to another. Now, it could be theoretically hacked to, if you really wanted to leverage an individual's following and you want that person to share things that you think they would share constantly. That's one of the weaknesses, And that's what I try to keep in mind anytime I make content. I'm like, I am not, I'm going to try my absolute hardest to not bias my content to piggyback on somebody's like following count, as an example. So like when Elon retweets my stuff or when he likes my stuff, it gets way more engagement. And in my head, I'm like, well, that would be a really easy way to grow the freaking profile, wouldn't it? If I just make things that Elon's going to like all the time, right? Like, okay, but I think it's going to be very important for Twitter to ensure that that's as unhackable as humanly possible. Maybe you you de-amplify things, but then you get into a weird scenario, right? So that mechanism of Twitter is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. And just something I realized, like as I create more and more content, the natural incentives that say media companies have, mainstream media companies have around what bleeds reads, like that sort of thought process, or negative headlines typically get a lot more engagement. You get a lot more access and sort of exposure to how messed up the incentives can be around content creation and sharing of information. And I think if Twitter can maximize unbiased, free thought, that's within the confines of each jurisdiction's freedom of speech laws, I think it will have outsized success, because I believe society has a gigantic hunger for it. Because in my conversations with people, I think a lot of people are just fed up with the very obvious biased media landscape, mainstream media landscape that we live in today. It just seems so transparently broken. And if Twitter can be the bellwether, or say the leader in moving us away from that into something that's more like, if truth and freedom of speech was way more profitable than biased headlines that drove clicks, Twitter will win so much. I'm like, I mean, forget it. But like, how do you do that? I think that's the challenge that Elon Musk and Twitter have in front of them to figure out.
Yeah. So then are you incorporating Twitter into what you're doing as an insurance policy to hedge your exposure risk on YouTube and other platforms? Or is it the primary plan long term that Twitter is going to be where most of the Farzad Mesbahi media is present? Or how do you
I think
think
I'm gonna
about
do
that?
both. I mean, I'm gonna do both long term. I would move exclusively to Twitter as an example if I felt like the YouTube viewership, and the management of my content on YouTube was a disaster. Then I would move it exclusively to Twitter. But I think Twitter coming online is going to be great competition for the likes of YouTube and others. Like, it's going to make them better, which I think is really what's going to end up happening. So for me, it's like, if as I continue on this thing is like how can I have my content available on as many platforms as possible? And then the strengths of each platform, I would do something unique that's can't be done on the other ones. Like for example, community forums, I can only do on YouTube, you know? Shit posting on random political thoughts or philosophical thoughts that are stream of consciousness that start a conversation in the replies. Um, I can't really do that on YouTube much. I can do it through posts, but the posts are not a conducive way to have that conversation because it doesn't get retweeted, it doesn't get liked. It doesn't, move around the zeitgeist in a way. So that's where Twitter is really cool. So that's what's unique there. And those are really the two main ones that I play in. I might go into Rumble. I don't know because Rumble has a different demographic and a different type of person that's watching that might enjoy my content, and so I might go on there and start putting my content there. So it's kind of leveraging the strengths of each platform to see what kind of content I can create, but it's always born out of like experimentation. It's not like I wish I had a plan. Like I wish I had a plan. The target is maximize the thing you're doing. And then the only way I know how to do that is just by just trying as many different things as possible, studying the data that comes back, see which ones work, see which ones don't. As of late, I brought on a David, who's my I call him my social media product manager dude that just he knows more about that stuff than I do, and I'm just like, yo, just whatever you think we should do, just tell me, and then we'll try it. So it's like another brain that's telling me what to try, and he helps me with the clips, he helps me with original content that I wouldn't have thought to do, and so that's one way that I'm trying to scale this thing out, and that could be done on Twitter as well, in a very similar manner. So it's everywhere. It's not just going to be exclusive. It's everywhere. So we'll see. We'll see how it evolves. You know.
So, do you have like a fuzzy idea of what this could evolve into in 5 years, or is it strictly just playing it by ear, continuing to conduct experiments and see what sticks?
For me, like the thing that's most attractive to me is creating a platform where maybe my community is leading on the idea front in some way, or I'm presenting information that's unique that is not really being explored around whatever topic. And then it's having a community and a platform that brings the most value around those topics when it comes to brainstorming and thinking about the different possibilities. It's like an open source think tank. And like we've talked about this on our Discord, it's an open source think tank. And that's kind of how I am thinking about my platform conceptually. But I have no idea if it's doable. But that's the sort of guideline that I'm following. And so that's the fuzzy thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to make specific concrete plans for something that is open source that you don't know how people are going to
Yeah.
interact with, and they have a lot of freedom to take it in their own directions.
Yeah. For me, it's like if I am lucky enough to attract some of the smartest people on planet Earth, why wouldn't I allow the smartest people on planet Earth to figure out how to best make this thing for them in some way? And if I'm the public facing thing that's driving that forward, then maybe that's what it is. But that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. If my content can bring together really cool conversations, and we can figure out how to move society forward in some way using that, that's the rough guideline. And because everything's moving to media, everything's media, everything's media. Information is media, right? So it's like, okay, so there's a way to bring those two things together some way. I just don't know how. But those two things overlap in some way, in a very abstract way.
So, in thinking about how Elon has been so successful in driving his companies forward. He uses a combination of mission and trust, and then extreme accountability, and then skin in the game on the back end. Some of those things are pretty easily applicable to doing an open source project like you're talking about, and others are a lot more difficult. Which things do you think are going to be the most important in what you're doing? And is it something that do those elements, between mission, accountability, trust, and skin in the game, are those piecemeal things that you can just pick one off the shelf and have that be something that really is effective? Or in your experience, having worked at Tesla and then having done a lot of other things, do you lose some of that secret sauce by having even one ingredient missing?
I think it's the latter. I think the combination of those things is what really makes the magic happen. The question becomes in what things can you do that in? Like is that infinitely scalable to anything? And I don't know. That's the part that I'm trying to experiment and find out, right? Like if I use my thing as an example, I'm just trying to be the most authentic person humanly possible on camera. Like you and I have met in person, you know. We've talked in our private discords. We've had many conversations. My hope is that the person I am in front of the camera is the person I am 100% of the time, you know? And as long as I'm doing that and I'm by doing that, which is the trust thing, right? That's how I view trust. Is like I'm just going to be me. I am just going to be me, and if you like it, fantastic. If you don't like it, fantastic. Like it's just me. It's just who I am. And then so that's setting up the trust. And then if I bring unique ideas, unique thought processes, I don't know, thoughts, content that sparks your mind to think about things in a different way, to find opportunities, to I don't know, get better in some way. Just bringing information forward that's going to improve something you're thinking about in some way. Then that's the value. That's the value I'm trying to create for the end user. Conversations on my videos, conversations on my replies. I just started a Substack, my written format stuff, like, and then the comments underneath, and creating that community. And those that want that skin in the game, if they want to be part of something that's truly, truly, say, next level from that, then it's that sort of community aspect, with the Discord and whatever else that takes that to yet another level. But like I don't know. I just don't know what that is yet. That's the thing I'm struggling with. Is like I don't know what that is yet. And so, could the Discord be like in my head is like, okay, well, the Discord is for the people that decided to have skin in the game, and those that have skin in the game are going to have, I'm gonna make sure that I cater to them because they have skin in the game. They decided to invest in me. And so I got to make sure I create additional time for those folks. But then by default, by having people have skin in the game, then you're surrounding people that have skin in the game with other people that have skin in the game. And so the sort of incentives are aligned for that, right? But then I'm not sure what are the things that I can do to really take that thing to the next level. And that's why I have it at $3 a month, bro. Because I just don't know. Because in my head, I'm like $3 a month ain't gonna be that much. It's like less than a freaking latte a month from Starbucks. And so if somebody decides to make that investment, I'm gonna try my absolute best to figure out what is the value add that you get from that. And then once that crystallizes, then that might change. If I feel like you're getting $1 million a month of value, that is charging $3 a month doesn't make sense, right? So it's like those kinds of things that I'm trying to figure out. But until it's super obvious to me and I don't feel like I'm screwing somebody over, then it will not change because I want to overpromise. I want to overdeliver. I want to underpromise and overdeliver, and that's one thing that I think has always been a very good way of building that trust and making my customer, in this case, whatever you want to call it, happy. And so And I'm always very mindful of that. And part of it is because of lack of confidence, and part of it is because just how that's the kind of person I am. And like I feel bad enough. Like in my head, the way my head works, like I feel bad enough that I have a thing where people can pay me $3 a month to have access to exclusive stuff. And it's like that is such a stupid way of thinking when you're trying to bring value. And that's I'm trying to figure out how to evolve, you know? That's the hardest part of this whole thing for me. It's so hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And it seems like it's fairly uncharted territory. There's not too many examples that you can look to where it's been done well in a way that's transparent enough for you to know how it was done. I'm sure there have been hundreds and thousands of examples where it has been done well, but usually in some sort of closed, gated environment to where if you aren't there, you didn't get to experience that.
Right.
So it's hard to know which path to follow. I'm excited to just see how this continues to evolve, how the experiments go, because having something where people can collaborate on a mission that is hopefully bigger than any of our own personal endeavors, but is not necessarily something that is a full-time job for people. Like that's an interesting and difficult space to play in.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of people are hungry for. There's a lot of areas of life that are lackluster in the amount of meaning that they're providing to people. And, if you are the type of person that works pretty soul sucking 9 to 5 and you need an outlet where you can be creative and apply yourself, having an interesting on ramp where you can invest energy and create something of value and contribute to a community is incredibly powerful. And so figuring out the best way to facilitate that type of experience for people, and then, make it a positive sum, abundant environment where as people pour into it more, they get more out of it.
Exactly. And that's the thought process behind splitting the community forums on Friday. That was a way of saying like, hey, here's a carrot. Here's a carrot. Like, I think there's so much value in what you just described, because I think having that epiphany and that like moment of like, holy shit, I just achieved something that's like so freaking good with I did that. I did that. I think that is a match to a fuse that has the biggest amount of momentum that I think I've ever experienced in my life is when you achieve that, because in your life a door opens, you go through it, and then it closes behind you, and then you have this new thing in front of you. And like that's the way I conceptually think about that. So it's like, hey, can I make a platform that can light as many fuses as humanly possible? You know? And the ask is right now, $3 a month. Just be part of the train. I don't know where we're going, right? But it's like maybe the interactions get you started, and then the community forum split creates an incentive for us to sort of figure out, not even me, I do nothing, right? It's the community. It's a community. And then hopefully that sort of sets things in motions, and maybe it inspires people to pursue this path, pursue that path, it's kind of like I'm a very big believer in putting pencil to paper and like actually doing the work to figure out if something works. Like, and that's why I'm not a huge believer in like, and I know people offer classes and all that stuff, and that's great and everything. But just from the way I learn is that I need to do it. And I think a lot of people work that way, that they learn, like they need to do it. And so maybe that's it. And again, I'm just thinking out loud, right? Maybe that's it. So who knows? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, Hans.
Hey, I think there's a lot of powerful things happen out of, I don't know
Right.
how this is going to work. I'm just going to try some stuff, and
Yeah.
um,
Literally
we'll see what
100% of my
happens.
time at Tesla. That's what it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And having that experience helps, give you the confidence to, because I think that is the thing that paralyzes a lot of people is like, they don't have faith or trust that if they just try a bunch of things that something's going to work. They expect the process of trying things and learning to result in failure and bear no fruit. and not be worth the time and the effort. So to me, it's something that'll be hard and painful and not produce anything meaningful. But usually that's not how things work. If the hard, painful thing that no one else is willing to do is the place where you create value and actually get rewarded.
Right. And I think I think it trains you in a way to have a different mindset around failure, because failure doesn't really failure is a construct. Success is a construct. It's just a thing that I feel like human beings, like, we just have created as a valuable or not valuable thing. And my feeling has changed on that dramatically over time. It's like, if you try a thing and it doesn't do the thing that you wanted it to do, that's the thing. That's it. It just didn't do the thing. And so why is that bad? Like, why not doing the thing is a bad thing? I'm sure there were many things in that path to reaching that conclusion that were very valuable, that you took away something from those things or opened the door. Or maybe it told you that definitely is not the thing you like. How is that not a good thing? You know? So it's like, that mentality shift, I think, is so important for discovering maybe things that have never been tried before that have an outsized impact to society. And so how many people can we get on that sort of thought process train? How many people can we sort of expose, how many doors can be open for those people to come through, and so that they walk away with what I feel is much more a much more powerful tool set that says, like, failure is like, what is it even? Why are we using that word? It's like such an odd word to me. Yeah, I don't know if that helps give more context, but that's how I think about it too.
Yep. Yeah, allowing ideas to die instead of us
Exactly.
through lots of experimentation. Then you find something that is actually really successful that doesn't cost you a whole lot other than the discomfort of the learning process.
Right.
So,
Which is not
all
even a
right.
discomfort.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. It's like, why is it a discomfort? It's like getting down to those core feelings that says, like, why is it uncomfortable? It what is hard? What is discomfort? Like I'll use the gym as an example. I've been going to the gym for like 12 weeks straight now. Thank God, finally. Okay. Now I'm going to the gym today, and it's like my thought process has changed. And I know this happens to everybody that goes to the gym for a really long time. And like Joe Rogan talks about this all the time. It's like, at some point it's just is. You're just part of it. And like, hard is not a proper way of describing it. It's just effort. It's, I go to the place, my muscles get really sore, I get winded, and then when I leave the gym, I feel great. How is that hard? It's the thing. It's the thing. And just that's another, like, maybe, like, fundamentally speaking, it might help people when they listen to this, is like, if you want to try something that seems hard, like, hard is just a word. It's like what your emotions and your body are saying in that context. And if you associate that to a positive instead of a negative, the whole meaning of hard changes. Hard is just a lot of really small steps. That's what I love to say at Tesla. Hard is just a lot of really small steps. Uh, and that's it. And you just do the steps, and you just keep pushing forward. I don't know if I'm making any fucking sense, Hans, but I'm just talking now.
Yeah. No, the wisdom of getting older and doing a few things. And yeah, it's one of the things that I really struggled with, especially when I was younger, is equating success with actually accomplishing a goal in the way that I thought I was supposed to accomplish it. And then when I didn't, on
Beat yourself
to
up.
really large things, yeah, really, really took a nosedive in my ability to re-up and try the next time for something.
Yeah.
And then, that's a really powerful negative feedback loop that you can get caught in, is if you allow your identity to be attached to the idea. I think this is one of the things that Tim talks about in his book. If you attach your identity to an idea and then the idea fails and you feel like your identity just died and you don't know how to define yourself anymore, it doesn't take many of those types of experiences before you just get stuck and you don't even want to try anything because it hurts too much. And so learning to say, this is me, this is who I am, and these are some ideas that I have over here. And, the ideas may be good, they may be bad. There's a thing that I'm going to try. It may work, it may not. And that doesn't necessarily mean that as a human being, I'm worth any less, that I deserve love any less, that I'm going to have any fewer opportunities in the future. Especially when, I think it's people really, really, really underestimate the amount of opportunities that can surround them constantly if they will look around themselves and recognize someone who's doing something good or cool, tell them that, and then tell other people about that. And the way that you learn to recognize what those things are is you try some things and you're like, oh, wow, doing that's really hard. Oh, that person over there, they're actually really good at that. I should say something. And then like network effects and the way that your mind gets rewired to recognize opportunities, going back to what we talked about earlier, that signal to noise detector, that's where you learn it.
Yeah, so true. Couldn't have said it better myself. Everybody follow Hans at Hans C. Nelson right now.
And everybody follow Farzi at Farziness on Twitter. Farzad Mesbahi on YouTube. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I always enjoy getting to have great in-depth discussions with you, and we'll look forward to picking this conversation up again in the future. For everyone out there, enjoy your day and keep your eyes open for someone or something who is doing something that you admire today. And if you see it, let them know. All right.
Beautiful.
Everyone, have a great day.
Thanks so much, man. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.